It's always a good time to make a crispy chicken sandwich. This time around, I made it with a sweet jalapeno coleslaw and it was really good. I feel like coleslaw just screams summertime to me, and this chicken is really easy to make, so let's get started. The first thing that we're going to do is start off with a pickle brine. Now, I know that sounds scary, but I will have you know that Chick-fil-A actually uses a pickle brine, and that's why their chicken tastes so good. I lost a little bit of my footage here, but basically what I did was I poured the pickle juice onto my chicken thighs, and I also added in a little bit of water and some salt. What you're going to do is just cover that up and let it sit overnight for it to marinate and get delicious.
24 hours later.
So it's the next day, and I pull my chicken out of the refrigerator and let it sit while I work on my coleslaw. I'm using prepackaged coleslaw this time around because I really do not have the patience to be out here grating and shredding cabbage. I don't know if it's like staying inside because of this whole situation, but the more I stay at home, the lazier I get. So I used some coleslaw mix along with some red cabbage. Right now I am slicing up my jalapenos. When it comes to the jalapeno, you can add more or less, but I personally don't think that jalapenos are spicy, so I just put in just enough for me. I sliced up a quarter of a red onion and mix it all around to get ready to start dressing the coleslaw. Now, one thing I will say about adding your homemade dressing to the coleslaw is that you do not want to add too much. When you first make it, it might look like it's not enough, but what I will tell you is the longer you let it sit, the more your vegetables are going to produce liquid, and it's going to make it extremely soggy and watery, and you don't want that. So I would say be careful with the amount of these ingredients that you put. So I added in some mayo and some Dijon mustard. Of course, the exact measurements are going to be in the description box, so I want you to check down there and look at the ingredients when you are ready to make it. So I just added in a little bit of apple cider vinegar, and the next ingredient I'm going to add is some sugar. Like I said, this is a sweet and spicy coleslaw, so we are just adding in some plain white sugar to the mix, followed by a little bit of celery seed. Now, I know this seems like a weird ingredient, but just a little bit of it is going to make such a difference, and people are not going to know where this flavor is coming from.
The flavor, oh my god, it's so real.
But it's really good. Next, we are going to add in our cumin and our black pepper. I am going to mix that all around, and one of the things that I like to do is I like to experiment. So this video was actually a little bit of an experiment for me, and I decided that I wanted to add in a little bit more sugar and a little bit more of the cabbage mix. Now I'm going to have, like I said, the final measurements in the description box, and I do this because I just want to make sure that if I'm sharing something that it's going to be great, because y'all deserve good things, you know. Added in a couple of shakes of cayenne pepper, mixed it all around, and I set my coleslaw aside to get started on my fried chicken. Now, there's so many different ways that you can make fried chicken. This is just one of the versions that I like to make, and I definitely want to upload as many different versions as I can because they are all good. So I added in some flour and a little bit of cornstarch, and there goes my homemade adobo seasoning because we canceled Goya.
You're over.
So I actually have a recipe for my adobo seasoning. I'm going to link it in the description box with a little bit of my Sazon seasoning as well. I also have a recipe for that one. I am just mixing it around, and I'm going to add in a little bit more black pepper to the mix. Now I'm just going to crack my eggs and whisk them up, and while I do that, I just want to talk about the seasoning part. Having the adobo and the Sazon ready saves you a step because it already has onion powder, garlic powder, cumin, coriander, oregano, like all types of stuff is already in that seasoning, turmeric. So your chicken is going to be flavorful without you having to go through individual spices. So like I said, the recipes for those two seasonings are going to be in the description box. So to make the chicken, I'm just going to take it out of our marinade and dip it into the eggs. After I dip it into the eggs, I'm going to dip it into the flour. Now, while that's in the flour, I'm just going to get our oil heated up. Make sure that you pat pat the flour and all up in the crevices of the chicken. I'm going to dip it back in the egg and dip it in the flour again. Now the reason why I do this is because I want a really nice crunchy outer layer on the chicken. So I want to make sure that it's very well breaded. Once that's done, I'm going to put it to the side to rest while I go ahead and work on the other chicken thigh. So basically, you're going to repeat the process, dunk in the egg, dunk it in the flour, back in the egg, and back in the flour. Once your oil gets hot, you're going to drop the chicken in and it's going to sizzle around the edges just like that. It's going to start getting golden brown, and because we're cooking chicken thighs, what you want to do is cook for about 12 minutes on the first side and 10 minutes on the second side. Now, one thing that sucks about making these videos is I record my voiceover after I make the food, and looking at this chicken right now is making me so hungry because I remember how it tasted. I remember that it was really good. I remember that it was delicious, and now I have to watch it on screen. So I hope y'all try it out, and I hope that you make it because I promise you it was good. If you love golden chicken, I want you to subscribe, turn on your notifications, like this video, and leave a comment because I definitely have more recipes. And while you're at it, follow me on Instagram. There I am getting some Instagram content. People on Instagram get to see what I'm making first. So if you want to make suggestions in my DMs, you can do that too. So at this point, I'm going to pull my chicken out of the oil, and to do that I am using a grate to kind of elevate the chicken, because when you let it sit in its own kind of grease, it's gonna get soggy. So to keep the chicken crispy, you want it elevated on a grate just like this. I don't have one that's specially made for this kind of purpose, so I just use the grate from my toaster oven and I put it on top of a toaster tray. So if you have a toaster oven, you should try that out. So once I took those two out of the oil, I went ahead and fried my other piece of chicken, and now we're gonna go ahead and start making our crispy chicken sandwich. So in order to assemble the sandwich, the first thing that I did was I grabbed some buns and I toasted them in my toaster oven. You can toast them on a flat top with some butter, but wow, look at that chicken. I had to do a close-up for you to see. The first thing I did was I plopped my chicken on there. I had some fries on the side because, you know, you gotta have fries. Then if you remember our coleslaw from the beginning, our sweet jalapeno coleslaw, I am adding that on top of the chicken to dress the sandwich. And you really do not need any extra sauces or any extra condiments for this because the coleslaw is all you are going to need. And look at that. When I tell you I thoroughly enjoyed this sandwich, it was so good. Sometimes I honestly wish that the people watching could try this out, but since you can't, you gotta just make it yourself. So I hope that you do, and I hope that you come back to my channel for another video.